Comment.
Are you good?
Yep.
Okay, let's bring improvement services to order. Let it be recorded. Johnson, Burnett, Nicholson, Worrier present. Need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Johnson, second by Worrier under discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Approve of the minutes by
So moved.
Worrier, second by Johnson under discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Regular business. Number 1, consideration of possible action on a request by Alderman Galvin for Department of Public Works to develop and implement a 5-year plan to inspect sidewalks and repair or replace them to code. Who wants to take it first? Alderman Bill?
Yeah. When I got elected, my first term, I had talked to Steve about the sidewalk issue. It was a problem that I had people talk to me about. You can come around my neck of the woods, you'll see mothers having to walk children in the street in strollers, elderly people having to walk in the street, joggers don't even try and jog on the sidewalks. Then come winter time, you've got because of the pitch of the sidewalk and all the damage, water collects, freezes, turns into ice. I mean, I know some people struggle trying to get it cleaned up, and it's not easy. So I looked, and De Pere has got a plan in place where they are going through the city section by section, year by year, and they've got the money set aside. And in fact, the Press-Gazette just had a letter to all the residents notifying them, that's one way they're going about it, that they have to take notice of problems with their sidewalks and get them fixed and repaired, get them up to code. I had an elderly lady this spring, I guess the thing that pushed it, one of my constituents sent me an email. She tripped on a sidewalk that was buckled. She fell, broke a bone in her face, and tore the rotator cuff in her shoulder. And you know, we got something working on the roads. I think we need to start addressing the sidewalks. It's another means of transportation for our community. I think it reflects how we feel about our community, whether we make it a good place to live and easy to get around. We're urging people to become more active, get out and walk around, and I just think our sidewalks should be up to code. We have a code, and I think it should be used, and you know, plan in place. So you know, if it can't be done in 5 years, 6 years, whatever, but just so there's a plan and there's some improvements that are taking place. Thank you.
Okay. Steve, you got any comments or concerns?
I've got quite a few concerns with it. First and foremost, we are not staffed for this. So if this is something that the Alder considers going forward with, we are going to be asking for that same consideration about 2 months when we go forward with budget discussions. This also has the ability to have negative impacts on city liability. Right now, we enjoy legislative immunity. The program is run on a complaint basis, and until we know that there's a problem, there's no obligation to remedy the problem. It seems like a head in the sand way of doing things, but when you're talking about exposure of city liability, it becomes a very consequential issue. We had a proactive program years ago. That program generated, if memory serves, it was about 7 years worth of sidewalk issues in the first year that it was in place. And now that those sidewalk issues were identified, there was an obligation to remedy them. If the people didn't take care of it on their own, then that obligation fell back to the city. And both from a cost perspective and a timing perspective, there was not enough contractor workforce available to get all that work done. So we could very easily overwhelm the contractors who are in this area by taking a 5-year plan and going out and proactively inspecting all these sidewalks instead of taking the approach that we have taken over the past 20 or so years. And again, I simply don't have the staff to be doing what the plan is calling for. If this is something that the common council feels is necessary and you guys want to move forward with it, we are going to need additional staff to do this.
How much manpower? How much more? I mean, how much more
if you're talking about doing physical inspections on the sidewalk on a 5-year rotation, I would have to quantify how many what we've got as far as miles of sidewalk out there. We're looking at least one person, possibly two. to do nothing but sidewalks.
All right. Anything else, Steve?
Nope.
Any questions, concerns?
Could you,
Oh, Kathy? Kathy, then Alderman Johnson.
I do agree that, we gotta take care of these sidewalks, because people, they might see the sidewalks bad, but they don't know where to call sometimes, or take the time to do it. And that's the problem, I think, too, that they go, for a long time, and they just keep getting really bad. And, for safety's sake, too, we need to, get the sidewalks done. And it's gonna cost, there's always a cost and everything, but that's something that I think we really should look at. As you said, adding 1 or 2 people, and it's something that we need to do. You want to keep your city, looking nice and having nice sidewalks, roads. Things are very important too when people move into a community. So I would support it.
Okay. What was the liability again, Steve?
Liability, if once a problem has been identified,
All right.
then there's a legal obligation to correct it.
Okay.
And right now, the sidewalks are still levied back against the property owner. That's one of the biggest complaints that we hear now that special assessments look to be going away. We still do hear quite a bit from folks who are responsible to repair the sidewalk in front of their home. We get a lot of requests to relieve the property owner from that burden. And it's no different than pavement special assessments. We've got folks who are living in a home who are on fixed income and they don't have money to be replacing the sidewalk in front of their house. They feel that should be a government responsibility and so forth. Or they want the sidewalk that was damaged by the tree fixed, but not the other sidewalk that's damaged in front of their home that would be their responsibility. So again, once that sidewalk has been noticed, and some folks simply, one of the other things that we hear about is when a private individual tries to contact a contractor to get a contractor on board to do the work, that the contractors don't call them back because they don't want to take on all these little jobs, so it winds up getting rolled into a city contract. Now we wind up billing the property owner back for that. But from a timing perspective, there's a very real possibility that we may overload the available contractors in the area and wind up with a liability issue for failure to correct.
And you stated that we were in this program at one time?
At one time, back in the 90s or early 2000s, we adopted a forward-looking proactive, and part of the problem was we overloaded the program and we had no way to pay for it.
Okay.
And we wound up with some liability issues associated with that.
I mean, if we do go down this road, do you think that would repeat again, or what would you do different?
I don't know that there's really anything you can do differently.
Okay.
I mean, we're going to be, right now it's on a complaint basis.
Right.
And until we get the complaint,
Okay.
there is not an issue.
Okay.
It becomes an issue once a complaint's received.
Alderman Johnson?
I think I fully understand what the policy is, but I'd like to maybe just have an open discussion about it, just for clarity's sake. So when we do receive a complaint, what's the basis for that complaint? Is it 3/4 of an inch? Is that how
Yes.
city ordinance defines it?
Yeah.
Okay, so 3/4 of an inch, and then, but when there's a complaint, you don't just go and look at that one cake, you do look at the whole sidewalk.
Property line to property line.
Okay. And if the damage is caused by a tree that's in the right of way, the city pays for the replacement of that?
Yes.
Everything else is the homeowner responsibility?
Well, not necessarily. If damage to the sidewalk was caused by a utility renewing their facilities, they are obligated to replace. But if it's just simply age deteriorated or due to weather effects over time, that there's heaving or movement of the slab, and there were no other external causes like a tree, like the utility contract, then it becomes the property owner's responsibility.
Okay. And so, and I understand this number can fluctuate from year to year, but could you just ballpark for me what the average price is to replace a cake?
Right now, it's running about $150.
Okay. And so, how many complaints do we receive a year?
Oh, geez.
And I know I'm catching you off
A
guard with that
couple
question.
hundred?
A couple hundred right now? Okay. And do you have any sense of, in terms of, and I think I know the answer to this, but do you have any sense about, I guess, how much of our sidewalk space is currently not in compliance?
Offhand, I wouldn't have any.
Without doing the inspections?
Not even a guess at that, because compliance can be related to a number of things. The sidewalk there's the slope running along the length of the sidewalk. There are maximum grades that sidewalk can be at to achieve compliance with the American Disabilities Act. Similarly, there are cross slope requirements. There are requirements at the curb ramps. There are trip hazard, which is the 3/4 inch offset that we're talking about. And then there are other features where the sidewalk is 100% in compliance, but there are still issues that are perceived by the public, like Alder Galvin spoke about, where either there's terrace trees or whatever happened over time, that the sidewalk is intended to drain from the property line back out towards the road. And if there's a grass terrace between the front edge of the walk and the back of the curb, and that's higher than the sidewalk is, there's a potential to pond water for short periods of time. And in the winter, sometimes those short periods of time are enough to allow for ice to form. So the sidewalk could be 100% in compliance, but it's still ponding water. Okay, that's not necessarily a city problem, that's a grading problem in front of somebody's house. That could be caused by a tree, it could be caused because the sidewalk settled, it could be caused because somebody decided to renew their grass and they brought in a couple inches of topsoil and just built things up. Now, if there's enough profile, long slope on the sidewalk, that should drain and eventually get to a driveway and leak out, but a lot of times you wind up with these small little duck ponds and they do ice over. So I mean, there's a million things that it's not necessarily a code requirement.
Mm-hmm. And so when we go out and do some of these repairs, and I mean, they're complaint based again, I get that. So if we go out there, I mean, do you have any sense, like on average, what % maybe falls to the city versus the homeowner? And the reason I'm asking this is because if we were to proceed with a plan like this, of course, in addition to the need that you're talking about for the inspector, we'd also have to budget additional money to, I would imagine, to fix the city's portion of
Correct.
Damaged. I mean, do you have a sense of what
On a
percentage
complaint
is that?
basis, I would say that we are running about, from a budget perspective, we're running about 2 to 1.
Okay.
Private versus city responsibility.
And what do we currently
We
budget?
budget about $100,000 a year for sidewalk complaints, and I think actual contract amount is trending about $325, somewhere in that neighborhood. Now, also bear in mind, when we budget for city-related sidewalk, that's not simply the 5x5 square in front of your house. If we get to a corner and find out that we have ped ramps that are not compliant that we need to bring into compliance, you're talking all that area of the ped ramp as well. So that comes into our financial, that $100,000 that we spend every year.
So what is the requirement on the ped ramps?
Which part of the requirement?
That's just open Pandora's
If,
box?
no, if we read the ADA, there's quite a bit that has to go in. It varies based on the ped ramp itself, because there's like 8 different types of ped ramps. But the landing, there has to be a landing at the top of the ramp that's at least 42 inches in the direction of travel, 36 inches transverse. Well, if you got 2 sidewalks coming in, it's 42 by 42 minimum. That can only be 2% in any one direction. From the edge of that landing down to the curb ramp, the curb opening at the bottom of the hill, that can only be a maximum of 8%. The sidewalk itself coming into the curb ramp can only be at 5% in the direction of travel.
And let me broaden this up, Steve. I wasn't necessarily looking for the technical aspects of it, but my concern is if we were to proceed with this plan, are we going to end up fixing a bunch of ped ramps as well?
Absolutely.
Any idea what percentage of those might not be in compliance?
Well, we may have a ped ramp that's in compliance, but the only way to fix the sidewalk is gonna be to change the grades on the sidewalk, and now we've created a trip hazard at the ped ramp with the landing. So we're gonna have to fix the landing, but the landing is integral to the rest of the ramp because it's a center discharge. And we're gonna have to rip the entire ramp, but it's conceivable that we could have a ramp that was just constructed as part of a resurfacing project 2 years ago. We go out, inspect the sidewalk, find out that a tree damaged the sidewalk, has heaved that up. We can't cut the tree, so we're gonna have to modify the sidewalk. In order to modify the sidewalk, I gotta lift the ramp, and I rip out a ramp that was just put in 2 years ago. It has brand new detectable warning fields, everything.
As it stands right now, is the ramp city responsibility or property owner?
Ramp is city.
Okay. Okay, that's all I've got for now. Thank you.
Brian, just for example, I've been out walking for the last 2 weeks. Every night I've been going out, walking about 2 miles with my wife throughout the district. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find one block that doesn't have some kind of violation or code violation with the sidewalks. In fact, some are so old that the tree that caused it is gone, the stump's gone, the terrace is back to normal, and the city never took care of the problem. Yeah, I mean, there's some heavings that are 6 to 8 inches where the property owners, not knowing that the city was responsible, have gone and done their own patchwork with asphalt and, you know, mixing a bucket of cement and putting it in place, trying to make it at least not as dangerous as it is. And I would challenge you to find a block in anywhere in my district where there isn't some kind of damage that needs to be replaced.
And I know my district obviously has a lot of that
Yes.
too, and it's just that aging infrastructure.
Right.
One more question, Steve. What is the timing of that? When a complaint is issued, if it's deemed that it needs to be repaired, what does that timing look like?
It's less than a year in all cases. Once we get the complaint, we try to investigate as soon as possible. If we can get to that investigation within a week, we're doing really good. Because the individual who's responsible for the sidewalk program right now has other program responsibilities. But what we want to do is go out and do at least the initial inspection to determine whether or not a problem exists. Just because a complaint received doesn't mean that the complaint is a valid complaint. So somebody may complain that there is a trip hazard, we go out and we measure and it's only a 1/2 inch, not 3/4. Doesn't meet the definition, therefore it's not a actionable complaint, so we won't take action on it, but it was a complaint received. If we find something that there is a trip hazard, then we will immediately work with the operations division to try to remedy that. And a lot of times what that involves is putting a small asphalt wedge in there to eliminate the trip hazard. Now that's only a temporary fix. Then it gets marked down as a spot that needs permanent repair. We will evaluate whether or not there's any city contribution to that for factors like trees, or if it's 100%. We'll make the apportionment between the private property owner and the city. That gets added to a list, and then once a year, typically in May, we bring forward the sidewalk resolutions where orders are cut and residents have 60 days in which to comply.
So that currently that's only done once a year then?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, it's done once a year citywide based on the complaints. Additionally, historically, we have taken care of city-required remedies in LMI areas, again in September, using money that's provided under CDBG funding. Because, as you know, the community development block grant money has to provide an area benefit, and public sidewalks are a definable area benefit.
And individuals, if ordered to replace parts of their sidewalk, they can still privately contract that out or do it themselves?
Absolutely, and they don't have to wait for us to cut orders to do that. I mean, if a property owner goes out and notices that their sidewalk is cracked, it's spalled, there's exposed aggregate, it's heaved, it's whatever, they have the ability to go ahead and do those repairs at any time.
And if given an order to repair, how long do they have to complete that
I
work?
believe statutorily it's 60 days. I would have to go back and take a look at the resolution, but it's written right in the resolution that goes to county council.
So if not completed in 60 days, that's when it goes on
That's
our
when the city
contract?
will arrange for our contractor to get over there.
Okay, thank you.
So they have 60 days to comply, but we have a year to comply? If I understand your process?
Not necessarily, we will schedule, they have 60 days to comply. If they fail to comply, we will schedule it for as soon as we can
Right,
get
but
there.
when you get a complaint
Mhm.
and someone goes out and looks, how soon will the city comply? If they find that it's.
Again, if there's something we can do to temporarily eliminate that,
Alright.
we do that as quickly as possible.
But if not, how long will it be till it gets replaced?
It depends on how big the program is and when we receive the complaint. If we get a complaint in.
I call in, the tree is heaved 2 sections in front of a house. Your guy goes out there, we can't temporarily remedy it. How long will it take the city to replace those 2 sections?
I can't give you a number of months, it depends on when we typically bring a sidewalk resolution through in May.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So if I complain in October,
It may be the following May.
what will we do with a homeowner with a complaint in October? Do they just get 60 days? Or do they get to
No,
wait
they
till
don't get
next
the
May?
60 days until we pass the resolution in May.
So even though all those complaints wait till May,
Yes,
and then they have 60 days after it's
Correct.
passed in May.
yes.
And then the city will have the same thing done, and so May, June, July, by the end of July, all the repairs will be done.
No,
No.
we'll start the complaint, we statutorily have to give them 60 days. I can't go there and fix the problem they didn't fix if I didn't give them the 60 days in which to comply.
Okay, so, let's take this back again. I complain, there's 2 blocks that are the city's problem, same section, there's 2 blocks that are the homeowner's section.
Mhm.
Come May, you do the orders, that homeowner has 60 days. So 60 days they have it done. When will the city have their 2 sections done?
Depends on what side of the city we start on, how quickly we get
What's the
across.
soonest it'll be done?
Soonest it would be done would be 60 days.
And what's the latest it'll be done?
November?
Okay, thank you. That's all I was asking. Thank you.
Kathy,
No, that's okay.
anybody else? Any concerns? Bill?
No.
Oh, I thought you raised your hand. Randy?
Well, just, I think this is a big issue. I think it's a concern, but I know when I was out knocking doors, I'd get complaints about the sidewalk, the owner, and I'd say, well, you're responsible for that, and they didn't have the money for it. So they, if the city was gonna do it, that'd have been great. City's not gonna do it, they didn't have the money for it. So if we go through and do this, I would be concerned about putting a hardship on a lot of people. I would like us to have some availability to help people out, if there's grant money, some way, something we can point them to help them cover their costs. And if we decide that this can't be done now, I think this is not something we should just turn around and forget. It should be on the back burner, and as soon as we got the wherewithal to do it, we should
Well,
jump on it.
I would ask that, we don't hit someone with a letter, 60 days you gotta have your sidewalk fixed. Kind of the complaint we had about the roads. Hey, we're coming through this summer, we're gonna redo your roads, here's your assessment. Well, there's gotta be some forewarning out there. Like I said, I'm not looking for a set, it's gotta be 5 years. But a program, how is the pier doing this? And I don't hear any stories about pitchforks and, burning torches and all that kind of stuff in the pier. But certainly this has got to be impacting quite a few people from the list of names I saw in the paper. So, we can look around at other communities to see how they're doing this, so it works best for the homeowner that may end up with the bill, and also so the city can get a program in place, so it's not impacting us like, I'm not actually even saying we got to have this in place by next spring. But let's get something moving so that there is some change that takes place in this community. That's what I'm looking for.
Bill, do you know what the procedures are for City of De Pere?
No, I don't. And I was going to reach out to them when I saw that article
Right.
in the paper. I thought it was very interesting. And in fact, I think they might be doing a 7-year rotation, but you can't quote me on that, but that's what I thought they were doing. So, and I look at a lot of our community. We have brand new subdivisions. I don't think there's any problems. We have areas with no sidewalks, so there's no problem. So it's not like the entire city, which has 400 and some miles of road, we don't have a comparable amount of sidewalks. So I think there's something like that. And, if they're responsible for it, and we can let them know far enough in advance that this is coming, that this has to be fixed, then, I think we have to do that. How many injuries, and close calls and falls do our citizens have to put up with? how many people have to push their kids out in the street because they can't get through on the sidewalks? I mean, that's not the kind of thing you want to see in neighborhoods, and it's not safe.
Right, but Steve, I mean, if Bill has huge, problems in his neighborhood with sidewalks, I mean, can't you get that on the list?
Yeah,
and
when
it
Steve
taken
says
care-
they've got $100,000 for sidewalk replacement, that's about 500 cakes, roughly, if my rough math is good. And I haven't seen much replacement anywhere, other than, I think there's one place down the street where a guy did the entire stretch. I don't think the city did, I think he took it upon himself.
Okay.
But I haven't seen a lot of sidewalk replacement personally, unless there's been a road project or something that went through and it was done part and parcel along with that.
All right.
And when you think about it, 500 is not a lot in a community this size.
All right, Kathy?
Maybe we should ask Steve and the staff to look at what potentially the cost could be if the city helped with some of the residents with the cost of the sidewalks. You don't know until you look at the figures to try to figure out, what you're looking at, to really see if you want to do it, if you can, how much it's going to cost, the city itself. You said the liability, the different things, look at all these different parts of it, and then bring it back to the committee to know what the real costs are going to be. I suppose, you really got to know what you're looking at before you can say, well, yeah, let's go ahead and do it, let's do this or that. So that might be a good option to start with. Would you say, Bill, to start something like that too?
Sure. I mean, there's you have to have a plan. You have to have information to formulate a good plan.
Sure.
And, if it's going to require more resources from the city, and let the neighbors know that maybe they should start marshaling their resources to cover their end of the bargain, then, we have to be fair. And that's why I didn't think we'd have a plan that would just be, next spring we'd be out just replacing tons of sidewalks. But, if it takes another year to get the budget set and everything, because I know we're kind of getting late into the budget season, but I would like to see a plan, something that the council can get behind and we can implement and start moving forward on it.
Okay, thank you. Steve, do you have any comments, or?
Nope.
Anybody from the committee?
Okay.
Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad you brought it forward, Alderman Galvin. It's something I've kicked around for a long time, and this year I also had someone fall and broke their elbow on a bad piece of sidewalk. And you can put it in your newsletters and put it in your Facebook and go to neighborhood associations and tell them over and over and over and over to report sidewalks, but it doesn't get done. So, they forget how. So it's something I'd like to at least hear the X's and O's and the details of. So I'd make a motion to refer this to staff to investigate and report back all the particular staffing expectations, budgetary effect, pros, cons, review other communities, etc. Anything else we missed? Second.
Okay, motion by Worry, second by Burnett. Under discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes, motion carried. Moving forward. 2, consideration of possible action and request by Alderman LaFave for partial reimbursement or temporary waive of wheel tax for residential properties that paid road improvement assessments the last 3 years. Kathy?
After the council meeting, I talked to Steve, and I put that in is because people have been calling me, especially the ones this year, are really upset that now they're going to be paying the wheel tax, and a lot of them are older and they're not going to see, for themselves any benefit from it because the roads will last about 20, 25 years, for a lot of people. So we talked a little bit, and I do know, there's probably a lot of costs. There'd probably be too much cost to try to do something monetarily for these people. But then we talked a little bit, maybe we could do a different thing. Because I had one lady ask to have it extended for 10 years. I said, well, maybe we can do where put out to the people that are paying this year that they can do a 5-year or a 10-year payment. So that'll make it much easier for the people to pay their assessment. And it sounds like that's maybe the only thing that we can do to help.
Steve, is that what you suggested to Kathy?
Well, what we had talked about was the pluses and minuses of trying to have some sort of reimbursement program. When you go into a potential reimbursement program, One of the things that you will struggle with is how far back. Do you go 1 year, do you go 5 years, do you go 6 years? Because there's always somebody that 1 year beyond whatever you pick. Some of the things that we struggle with, other communities have dealt with unsuccessfully. There are an astronomical number of properties that change hands that are on these streets. So it could be anything from an arm's length transaction because somebody moved from one house to another, moved out of state due to a death in the family. And with those, who do you reimburse? Do you reimburse the new property owner? Do you reimburse the property owner who paid the assessment? How do you track them down? How much resources do you expend trying to get that reimbursement back to somebody? And then there's the cost of that reimbursement. We would have to quantify what that cost is and how are we going to pay for that? Is that money we're going to borrow and pay interest on? Because if you're trying to find it in the budget, I'm here to tell you it's not there. So you're going to have to come up with some way to pay for it. And as the two of us talked, Alder LaFave said she understands that there are some severe limitations on that. Is there anything that we can do, especially for those residents caught just in 2018? Because there had been discussion last fall relative to a wheel tax. It was talked about early on this year. Then we passed a handful of projects. We didn't go forward with some other projects. And then wheel tax discussion came up again. So we have a small number of projects that are actively being built in 2018 that may or may not have been adversely impacted had a wheel tax been implemented earlier. And one of the things I did suggest to Alder LaFave was the way things are currently set up, there are a couple of options for property owners. If property owners are able to demonstrate indigency, there is a deferral on pavement special assessments until the property is sold if you are able to demonstrate indigency. Because the property owner literally does have to get into net worth and provide bank statements, and that demonstration has to be made in front of the committee and then again in front of the council, a lot of folks simply choose not to go that route. Standard policy for special assessments for pavement construction provide that when the assessment comes due, it's due net 30, which means 30 days after receipt of the invoice, you are obligated to pay any, all, or none. Any unpaid balance resulting after the 30 days receipt expires goes onto your taxes and it's automatically put into 5 equal annual installments. So that's what we refer to as your standard 5-year plan. Because business special assessments occur at a higher rate and typically have a larger amount of frontage than a residential special assessment for pavement, there was a program put into place many, many years ago. It was a policy statement adopted by the Common Council that a business owner has the ability to come in and petition on a case-specific basis and request a 10-year payment plan from the Improvement Service Committee. We know that there were a couple of folks on the Military Avenue project in 2010 who made that demonstration and were granted a 10-year payment plan. The reason that payment plan hasn't historically been offered as a standard is because it becomes a very onerous cash flow issue. What I did state to Alder LaFave is for a one-time deal for those projects here in 2018, that cash flow issue becomes my cash flow issue, but I would have no problem trying to manage that for the 2018 projects if we wanted to offer a 10-year plan. And not everyone's going to take advantage of it. There are some people out there who are going to say, hey, I don't want to deal with the headaches of paying this thing over many, many years. I just want to be done with it and pay their special assessments in full. I would say that probably more than half of all folks historically have done that, and I would expect the same thing. But if there are folks who are in a situation that we would want to be able to offer something, I would have no problem with a 10-year payment plan going for those folks.
Yeah, that seems like the best thing that we can do. You know, I can understand you can't I can understand the people feeling, you know, that they're caught paying this year. The streets couldn't be put off because they tie into the Webster Street. And that's, you know, that's why they had to be done this year too. But, you know, money, where's the money gonna come from, you know? So that's the issue. That I think if we can allow certain people, some can come apply for a 10-year extension. That's, I think, the best that we can do for them.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. Alderman Burnett, then Johnson.
Yeah, I think I appreciate the comments and the explanation, Director Grenier, but I think we gotta get back to the motion. That wasn't really not the motion, but the agenda item. The agenda item is to partial reimbursement or waiver of the wheel tax for those who paid a special assessment, but that's really what we should be discussing, and it is a difficult discussion because, as you say, Director Grenier, where do you draw the line, you know, for properties? And even in the last 2 years since the wheel tax was first proposed, some projects passed, some projects did not pass. The Hillcrest project that was in my district, we delayed the decision for a year. I thought that the wheel tax would be discussed as it was, and for my constituents, the wheel tax passed and will pass into final law in about a year, in about a month. So we got to draw the line somewhere. I think that for those who just paid a special assessment, maybe since the wheel tax was first discussed 2 years ago, whenever it was first discussed, that maybe we have a program in place for those folks can appeal to this body for a reimbursement for the wheel tax, or for the wheel tax for taxes that they paid since that was first proposed to when it will be enacted in January. I'm not saying I support that, but I think it's worth considering that as a compromise to get us into fair level ground for those who did pay that special assessment and now have to pay a wheel tax.
Anything else, Jesse?
No.
Alderman Johnson?
Yeah, so I know that I talked with Director Grenier and a few others about a rebate on this as well, prior to this committee even taking this issue up. And I decided at that time not to bring it up here simply because of the administrative challenges that presents. And I mean, I look at something like the $100 child tax rebate, right? In the the state of Wisconsin spent $180,000 just on sending postcards to let people know that we'll give them money. And so I'm not, you know, I mean, just going through that dialogue, and you start to understand too, of course, that there are administrative burdens that come with tracking down $20 refund checks. And again, I personally don't like the idea of a wheel tax, and I supported it, but I do want to see us I supported it as a bridge to catch up, and then eventually I would like to see us come up with a policy that allows us to rescind it, you know. And so when I start looking at trying to create a special scenario of refunding $20 checks, I just think the administrative cost to do that will outweigh the benefit. And when you make difficult policy decisions like this, meaning we're used to doing something one way and we're now going to do something another way, inevitably there are people that doesn't benefit, and that is a very difficult decision in time. And I think that's simply the case with what we have here. It doesn't make me feel good, but I think, you know, we have to look out obviously for the overall good of the city. And so I'm going to make a motion, at least on this, unless somebody else would want to say anything, to just receive and place this on file. And to Jesse's point, though, if we need to bring up that other item as a separate agenda item at a future meeting, or if we amended the agenda, we could certainly do that. But for this particular item, I would say receive and place, motion receive and place on file.
There's a motion by Johnson to receive and place on file. Is there a second? Is there a second? I'll second it. So we're still under discussion. Kathy?
So should I then make another request for the next meeting then for the extending the payments?
That's an option. That's an option.
Does that work out with your timing, Director Grenier?
Oh, absolutely. We don't send out the invoices for the assessment until we accept the construction. So usually our first invoices for the year go out in October or so.
Okay.
Okay. We're still under discussion. Any other concerns or questions?
Nope.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays?
No.
And so it passes 2-1, and silence is a virtue. Right, Alderman Weary?
Silence is assent.
Right. So 2-1, it is received and placed on file, which is a recommendation to the full city council, August, what's the date?
I believe 21st.
21st.
Yep.
Okay. All right, moving forward. Thank you. Number 3, consideration of possible action on a request by Alderman LaFave on the behalf of a resident at 1855 Eastman Ave for a review of overnight parking ordinance related to multi-family residential property. Kathy?
Actually, I talked to Steve.
Steve, you're there?
Every time I talked to the gentleman, young gentleman, the first couple times when we talked, it sounded like he had maybe 2 spots to park. Okay, and he signed his lease in April, I think it was, May. And he was upset because he moved up from Illinois, and his parents came, spent the night, and they parked in the street, and they got a ticket because I found out that overnight parking is only allowed for residents, not apartment buildings. They have to have enough spaces that they only got 2 spots. And they got 2 cars, that's not fair. Well, the third time I talked to him, I found out that, he has 3 cars. He has 2 garages, and he has a parking space in the lot. He has a old Corvette that he likes to keep in the garage. So, talked to Steve about it, and so I would say you deny this because I don't think any apartment builder has to provide more spaces.
Okay.
There's plenty there.
Right.
And I will call him there are 3 options that I can give.
Excellent.
That he can do.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to that effect by,
Receive and place on file.
yes, by Worry. Second?
Second.
By Johnson, under discussion. Hear none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Number 4, consideration of possible action on request by Alderman Scannell to install monument in public right-of-way on north side of Main Street at the Fox River Trail. Randy?
Yes.
What is it?
I brought some of the materials up there to share. Dennis Downs is an artist from Chicago. He's actually been up here a number of times. He's actually made some of those trees out by East High School, that actual trees, into markers. And a couple months ago, he went to the Ho-Chunk Nation and proposed this statue, which the local government, for $50,000 he's asking, and the local government granted it. And now we're waiting on the tribal legislature to pass it. So we're kind of in a holding pattern, but we'd like to be able to move on this when we can. So all we want to do is have the permission that when we're ready to go, and if something should happen, I still like this enough, I'm hoping we can come up with some other funding sources if necessary, that we can put that marker in where that trail marker is now and move the trail marker over. So I just want to get things set up so that when the project is ready to go, we can go.
Okay. Any questions or concerns? Steve?
As things sit right now, Alderman Scannell's not looking at a financial commitment on behalf of the city. What he's simply looking for is, because where the marker would go is within the public right-of-way, approve the use of the right-of-way for this purpose. And there's an existing printed word sign on the north side of the Main Street Bridge by the Hampton Inn. If you come off the sidewalk from Main Street and then go under the bridge on the east side, there's a green sign there, and that is where purportedly where one of the original trees 200 years ago or what have you, one was in that vicinity. So we're simply looking to move that sign over to give the monument a more prominent, logical place next to the trail, and we'll move the word sign over, so we just need to have approval to utilize the right-of-way for this purpose.
Now, Randy, are you gonna be looking for any finances in the future for this?
No, I don't think so. He's gonna be paying for the only cost would be in moving the sign. He's gonna be paying, the 50,000 should cover, the base that he'll install and the monument, and, so, no.
Burnett?
I just browsed through the article. It was very interesting. Now that, if I'm not mistaken, the monument or the trees or markers for the Chippewa tribe, is that?
Well, a number of Native American, and the whole chunk who used to be in this area,
Right.
used them as markers as well.
Okay, it's a good opportunity to
Yep.
highlight that part of our city's history, or our community's history. Thank you.
Kathy? And then Johnson?
If you're talking about trees, there's another thing that the city should get into. There are trees that generate power, electricity. Have you ever seen any of those? I saw a program a number of years ago. They're metal, made out of metal and everything, but they actually, the wind goes through them and it gives you and
Kathy, how is this that
no, I
related?
just wanted to brief that. We talk about
Okay.
trees.
Alderman Johnson?
Just one question. Did you talk to Downtown Green Bay about the installation of this or the moving of signage? I'm just curious if
I
you're engaged.
haven't.
I don't, no, I haven't.
Okay.
I'm not sure that it's, I mean, we're not gonna take the sign down, we're just moving it 30 feet, 20 feet.
Okay. Well, a lot of times I ask because a lot of times these districts have, master plans as well.
Oh,
And so I'm not trying to speak for Downtown Green Bay, but I think that's a worthwhile conversation to have to make sure that it doesn't create any interference with something that they might be planning as well.
yeah, okay, good, yeah.
Okay, any other questions? If not, entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Worry, second by Johnson. Under discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Number 5, consideration of possible action on request by Department of Public Works to replace sewer combination truck 95. Director Ganir.
Our combo tracks are the very large round tank on the back sewer trucks that you see. They have the ability to both vacuum and jet, hence the name combination truck. We have in the 2018 equipment replacement program a new combo truck for the sewer section. As we've been going through the course of 2018, existing combo truck 95 is a 2010 International. It's got an International 7500 chassis with a Vactor 2100 jet back body. We put over 1,100 hours per year on that combination truck, and we have accumulated in excess of $115,000 in maintenance costs on the vehicle. It's currently 8 years old. As I'm sure you're aware from me telling you constantly, sewer section folks have been doing a phenomenal job over the past couple of years, stepping their game up and really getting on inspection of the sewers, and we're starting to move that way towards our storm sewer as well. We have had problems with abrasive debris ruining the containment floor in the tank on the back of the truck. We had issues with the blower housing. The suction pipes have been wearing thin. Within the next year, we're anticipating over $35,000 worth of additional repair and 2 to 3 weeks downtime to have some of those repairs taken care of on an 8-year-old vehicle. We did take the opportunity to reach out and talk to Bruce Municipal, who is one of our equipment suppliers. They are the folks who are the low responsive bid for the new combo truck we're getting with 2018 funding, and asked if they would be willing to honor the same price if we ordered 2 trucks, and they indicate that they will. That purchase price is $428,269. With recent tariffs and model year increases, we're anticipating that a new vehicle next year would be between $15,000 and $20,000 more than the same vehicle ordered this year. So that's a price increase of between $65,000 and $85,000. City does have money that's in our reserves for the for equipment purchase for the sanitary and storm utilities. Again, this has no taxpayer impact, it's 100% funded by those two utilities. We do like to keep those reserves at a workable level, but staff feels that it would be in the city's best interest to go ahead and make the purchase out of those reserves and then replenish those reserves as part of our budget for 2019. So staff is requesting the ability to add a second combination Vector truck at a cost not to exceed $428,269. There is a very good possibility that we can realize up to $100,000 in salvage value on the existing truck, which would then bring that number down to $328,269. We're asking for the full value, so we have that there, and then whatever money we realize in salvage value on the old truck, that will automatically go right back into that equipment replacement fund to replenish those reserves that we're using on the initial purchase.
Any questions or concerns? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make
Alderman
that
Johnson.
motion with a contingency that the amount that is replaced in the reserve is equal to what we take out.
Absolutely.
Meaning that if the truck sells for less, that we're still replenishing the amount
Yes.
that we took out. Okay.
Yep.
Do you have everything, Steve?
Absolutely.
Okay, motion to that effect, second by Burnett, under discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Move forward. Number 6, consideration of possible action on a request by Department of Public Works to have an approval to award contracts associated with the construction of Big Wheel Ride at Bay Beach Amusement Park, including site work and foundation construction, and report out any contracts awarded at the next regular scheduled meeting of INS. Director Grenier.
You're going to be hearing about this at your next park committee meeting as well. This is the same type of request that we put in for the projects that are in the CIP. The only difference is the Big Wheel, because it's being mostly funded by the Friends of Bay Beach, that was not part of the parks CIP for the year. We told you folks that we were only going to award contracts that were meeting certain criteria, because this one's not in the CIP. It doesn't meet the criteria, so we're here seeking a separate approval for that. And speaking with Co-Director Ditch, they're anticipating these bids to be ready, I believe, either at the end of August or the first week of September. And if we don't award them immediately, they're worried they may not have enough construction season left to get the foundations in and cured in time for winter.
All right, any questions?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Burnett, second by
Second.
Wery, under discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. 7, report of actions taken by Department of Public Works. A, award of contracts, none. B, granting license. Concrete sidewalk builders. 1A, Complete Flat Work Specialist LLC. And 1B, Melcor Concrete. Any issues with these two companies?
No, again, this is just a report of actions we've already taken that
Okay.
we're reporting out to you.
Okay. So what's the proper motion then? Just
I think the proper motion would be to receive, place on file the report.
so the
And
whole
that would
report
be-
then?
That would be 7A through C3.
Okay. I'll take a motion
So move.
to that effect by Burnett,
Second?
second by Johnson. Under discussion?
Yep.
Nothing? All in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried.
That, just for your knowledge, that's why we report them out the way we did, and that's why we list them on the agenda the way we do. That way, everything is on the agenda, everybody gets a chance to see it, so if you just accept it or receive and place on file the report, that's been out there in the public already.
Okay. All right, thanks, Steve. E. Edward, Informational Director's Report on recent activities of the Public Works Department. Steve?
As Alderman LaFave mentioned, we have the projects up on Smiths and St. George right now going pretty frantically, trying to get that work taken care of before snow flies. That's tying in the larger project on the North Webster project. The North Webster project should be going out for, is it out for?
Bids tomorrow.
Okay, we're receiving bids on that tomorrow. We're gonna wind up on that North Webster corridor with a lot of activity going on at the same time and people tripping over each other. We now have about 8 to 10 full acquisitions and people moved out of the houses. So the Special Projects Division is working on contracts to go in and do the inspections on the home to check for lead paint and asbestos and those kind of things so that we can get the demo work done, get the houses knocked down so we can start building utilities. So there's a lot of activity going on that's going to be headquartered around that North Webster corridor, and then also with the private work that Green Bay Packaging is doing. We're going to have in a half-mile stretch of road. There's going to be a lot of work going on over there. Other than that, staff is knee-deep in budget, so be expecting updates on the budget as time goes forward. So we're working pretty frantically on that.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns?
One question. Steve, I'm just thinking about that new construction along University Avenue there. And then, of course, I mean, the potential, or not University, I'm sorry, Webster. And the potential with all of that truck traffic to build $500 million facility. I mean, is there any concerns that truck traffic could prematurely deteriorate the condition of that road?
No, that's one of the beautiful things about concrete pavement. Asphalt being a flexible pavement, it deteriorates a little bit with every wheel load that goes across it. Concrete being an ultimate stress design, you either break it or you don't. So as long as it's designed to handle the truck traffic, there is a certain amount of repetitive wear that you have to factor in, but it's nothing like what you have to do with asphalt. Generally speaking, concrete, you break it and it's over. You don't break it, it'll wear forever, kind of thing. Okay. So we're very comfortable with having that detour route running on Quincy for the period of time that we are.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Kathy?
Can I ask, how many houses have to be purchased on Webster?
We have paperwork in process for everything. I believe that we have in the neighborhood of 10 fully acquired, an additional 6 that are that close to being acquired, and the last 8, they have the offer, and we've either negotiated the offer but haven't set the closing date yet.
Okay.
So,
because how do you feel with how it's going for getting that portion done before you can, next year you're going to start the roads?
All we're really worried about as far as the utility contract, getting the sanitary and the water done, is I think the southernmost, the 2 blocks immediately north of University. I got to make sure I get those houses out because there could be a conflict between the sewer and the house. Everything north of that, the houses need to come down before we can do the construction of the pavement, but it's not going to impact the sewer project. So we've got all winter to knock those down, and we expect to have full acquisition on everything, closing dates, payments made, maybe not the relocation payments, but everyone will have been paid for their property by the end of September.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Motion by Burnett to receive and place on file. Second by?
Second.
Johnson, or discussion? Hear none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Motion to adjourn. By Burnett. Second by Worry, under discussion, hear none, all in favor. Nays, motion carried.